Welcome, everyone. My name is Donna Oshry. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Wilf Campus for Senior Living. We're thrilled to present to you today the foundation of the Wilf Campus's first annual lecture with oncologist Dr. Michael Nissenblatt. But before we start the program, I'd like to take a few minutes, just a minute or two, to tell you a little bit about our campus for those of you who are not familiar with the Wilf Campus. And I promise I'm going to be brief. I know you're not here to listen to me. So the Wilf Campus for Senior Living, we are a nonprofit senior community. We've been around for over 45 years. We are a warm, inviting community that reflects Jewish values and traditions, but we welcome people of all faiths. We provide the highest level of care and service that's based on respect and compassion. And our goal always is to provide a meaningful life to our residents and our clients. Okay, so you may have heard about some of our agencies, but as you can see, the Wilf Campus includes a variety of services and programs for the senior community. They're all on the screen. I'll start with Stein Assisted Living. It's where our incredible staff combines a warm and inviting atmosphere with personalized and attentive care. We offer a home-like environment with social, fitness, and educational activities, a beauty parlor, housekeeping, nurses on premises 24 hours, 7 days a week. And we also offer respite or short-term stays so people can try us out for a period of 2 to 4 weeks without the long-term commitment. It's really a wonderful community. Woodland Senior Residence, it's our independent living building. It's a HUD building, so you have to meet financial eligibility requirements to live there. But Woodlands offers a spacious apartments. We have a social worker on staff for our residents. We have a beauty parlor, a convenience store that's run by our residents. We offer housekeeping and much, much more. Stein Hospice provides compassionate end-of-life care. We focus on comfort and dignity of the patient, as well as support for their family. We are available 24/7, including evenings and weekends. And we provide care wherever the patient is. So it might be at home, in an assisted living facility, whether it's ours or another, a nursing home or a hospital, really wherever the patient happens to be. Wilf at Home, it's our home care agency. We provide care, again, wherever the patient calls home. We provide peace of mind and an individualized plan of care to meet our patients' needs. We offer skilled nursing, certified home health aides, non-medical companionship, and we also offer pastoral and spiritual care. And we're also able to provide transportation services using Wilf Transport, which is another one of our agencies. So Wilf Transport, we offer transportation services to seniors as well as individuals with special needs. We take people to medical appointments, dialysis, shopping trips, etc. All of our vehicles are ADA compliant and wheelchair accessible. And especially now with so many people worried about using public transportation because of the pandemic, we really offer a great low cost alternative. And of course, we're taking all necessary precautions to keep our clients safe. And lastly, our Education and Resource Center is a beautiful building. It's where we hold health, wellness, and educational and social programs for the community. We also offer CEU programs for professionals, continuing education programs. Some of you have visited us in the Educational Resource Center before the pandemic. We do hope very soon to be able to hold programs such as this program back in that building, and we hope to welcome you there very soon. If you have any questions about any of our agencies, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen. I'll also put it in the chat. So you have it if you should need to reach out to me. So next, I would like to introduce Elaine Fromkin, who is a trustee on the Wilf Campus Board. Elaine has been instrumental in getting Dr. Nissenblatt to be our first speaker in the foundation of the Wilf Campus annual lecture series. Elaine worked very hard through several postponements during the pandemic to finally get us here today. She has worked tirelessly to see this event a success and has also been a great help in marketing this event. So we would like to honor Elaine by having her introduce our speaker for tonight. Just a quick note before I turn things over to Elaine, we ask that you keep yourself mute during this program so we don't have background noise. And also, if you do have any questions, please put them into the chat, and Dr. Nissenblatt will answer them at the end of the program. So Elaine, I am now going to turn things over to you to introduce Dr. Nissenblatt.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wilf campus virtually. During a time when the pandemic challenged us in so many ways, Dr. Michael Nissenblatt's reputation has succeeded in registering 222 people watching this Zoom tonight. Extraordinary, with so many distractions. Luckily, we're not having this event face-to-face. With the weather as it is, we avoided that dilemma too. I would like you to be acquainted with the people who have gone above and beyond to get this event on the road. Dr. Nissenblatt, Marlene Nissenblatt, Dorothy Balwag, who is Dr. Nissenblatt's physician liaison, have been working on this since 2020, and with their persistence, they have made this event a success. Although Dr. Nissenblatt kiddingly said to me the other day that it felt like we've been working towards tonight since 2015. Donna Oshray, our Wilf Campus Director of Marketing and Community Relations, who you've already met, her skills were made apparent to me in the past. And once again, while we planned this event, he worked tirelessly for months to have this presentation work. For weeks, it was 12 hours, 7 days a week, and we can't be thankful enough for her efforts. Paula Mashuli is our president of the Wilf Campus Foundation. Paula has been a constant support since beginning the planning for Dr. Nissenblatt to become our first annual Wilf Campus Foundation lecturer. I'd like you all to become acquainted with some of our Wilf Campus family. Gail Braunstein is the executive director of the Wilf Foundation and Community Relations. Bob Barry is the president of the Wilf Campus. John Wolf is the president of the Wilf Campus Board of Trustees. Mickey Kaufman is the immediate past president of the Wilf Campus Board of Trustees. And Jean Leone is the executive director of Stein Assisted Living and executive director of Wilf at Home. She is Wilf's clinical compliance officer, and Jean oversees hospice as well. Indulge me. During these unprecedented, challenging times, it's important to recognize our healthcare heroes, volunteers, and staff at the Wilf campus. Our board members are volunteers. Our agency presidents, officers, and committee members are volunteers. Our fiduciary financial advisors, our supportive and compassionate hospice care personnel, our skilled nurses and therapists and aides, our administrators, our recreation, transport, and culinary leaders, and our janitorial staff. All of these are valued members of our campus, and they've proved themselves extraordinarily during this challenging year and a half. I'd be remiss if I did not mention an icon in our community who was laid to rest today, Gert Klaus. Many of you knew her. Well, she encouraged the history of this senior living institution from its beginnings. She did it via her sister, Doris Arshan, who was our past president and advisor, her son-in-law, Ed Guttenplan, past president, and Gert's dear friends, who were the Tansmans, the Shines, the Goldfarbs, the Herb Goldsteins, the Kramers, the Taybacks, the Goldbergers, the David Koplowitz, and the Roswells, Ruth Berkowitz, and so many others. For those who've passed in that list that I've just read, and the many who paved the way for this institution, may their memories be a blessing. And accolades and recognition to all of you in this audience. You know who you are. Those of you who've extended yourselves to those needing attention in one way or the other. The Wilf campus appreciates your efforts in making this a better world for all. And now, to our medical celebrity for bringing hope, inspiration, and healthcare. Actually, Dr. Michael Nissenblatt needs no introduction. He's so well known for being a diplomat of internal medicine, medical oncology, an associate director of medical oncology at Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, a clinical professor at Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, and is affiliated at St. Peter's University Hospital and Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, Hamilton. He is constantly on the research end of progress in medical science. He is well known nationally and internationally by his colleagues and patients, and well known in our New Jersey community by patients. Even those who are not his patients revere him. He has created an organization of outstanding physicians who are each known in their own right. He is also well known for the Challah Fund, which I've contributed to for decades, and the Cancer Society's Wine and Roses Gala that he and his wife Marlene have chaired and raised mega dollars for cancer research for 35 years. He did his residency in the Johns Hopkins Health System. He attended Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons Medical School and graduated in 1973. He has been practicing for over 48 years, although I find that interesting because he doesn't look a day over 40. Anyway, he specializes in internal medicine, hematology, oncology, and medical oncology. His research is, and his strategies are never ending. Credibility, reputation, and track record have never been an issue for Dr. Nissenblatt for the 48 years he's practicing. His reputation precedes him. He's an oncologist who has guided many individuals through very rough times in their lives with compassion. And now it is with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce our esteemed first annual Wilf Campus Foundation Lecturer. And without further ado, I'm proud to present Dr. Michael Nissenblatt. Michael, it's all yours.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you for the exaggerations. I appreciate that. It reminds me of the story about Joe DiMaggio, who toward the end of his career, when he was limping with heel spurs, he was asked by his teammates why he ran after a ball as he did 20 years before, as though he had been a rookie. And he said, because there might be a 10-year-old in the stands who never saw me play. I hope some of the things I have to say this evening are inspiring. It remains to be seen. But one of the reasons I accepted this was because of the names Martin and Edith, the names of my beloved parents. And I decided to title this initially, Remember Your Grandparents, but that's not really it at all. It's really hope in the age of COVID. And that's what I hope to give you, to impart some words of hope during these rather remarkable times. A man has made at least a start on discovering the meaning of life when he plants shade trees under which he knows full well he will never sit. A beautiful phrase. And that's really the idea of compassion and hope, looking toward the future. This has been a year and a half of remarkable uncertainty. I put some of the uncertain events on the left side of this slide, and that's why things are so foggy. We don't have any clarity at all, as seen on the right side of this slide. Everything from poverty, cicadas, Bitcoin, whatever that is, wildfires, earthquakes, today hurricanes, racism, this week Afghanistan going on, and many, many other events. Will our future be more dimness and darkness? Or will there be brightness? And when will it come, for goodness sake? So what is this idea of hope in the face of uncertainty? Well, first, it's important for us to appreciate that we all live in uncertain times. Some of us elect to challenge uncertainty. We even have a word for insecurity, when the balance seems to be off. Funambulist, a tightrope walker, just one slight mistake, and this man is at the bottom of the canyon. But he imparted this. He elected to do this. Quite remarkable in my thoughts. But there can be balance despite uncertainty. And for example, some of us here as a you find security in what seems to be insecure in my mind. It's really a matter of perspective. On the left, we see Times Square. I haven't been there in almost 2 years. It looks like it is on the right. And as the slide points out, we need to begin to embrace the absurd. Who in their right mind would have expected to go to Times Square and to only see the naked cowboy? Has anybody here gotten a signature from him? There are some things that are known. There are unknown knowns, as we remember that great phrase. We know that during the summer, we can expect hail as large as eggs. We also know that as we had last week and the week before, every early and mid-August, we have the Perseids. These are recognized events that are timed and we can expect them every season. Cicadas, though, are something that we don't expect. We don't think of them except every 13 or every 17 years. They came this year, bringing perhaps a degree of certainty or of expectedness to the uncertainty. This year, we also had an extraterrestrial invader. We had an asteroid coming, believe it or not, from another galaxy, outside of our solar system, outside of our galaxy, the very first asteroid of that nature, 10 times as long as it is wide, an extraterrestrial invader. There may be extraterrestrial visitors of other sorts. You also realize that we had more sightings of UFOs this year than in previous years. And we are expecting that in the next 3 to 4 weeks, there will be a presentation by our federal government, a highly anticipated report on UFOs that has been held for 73 years. So exciting that we can't even spell it right. Is it revealed? Is it revelated? We've created a new word, an ideologism, for this uncertainty that's coming in our environment. So we've had to deal with the plague now for 18 or 19 months and all of the other things that are on the left. But you promised me hope, Nissenblatt. How do we get there? Let's get some definitions. BC is not a religious statement. It's before COVID. AC is also not a religious statement. It's after COVID. Hope is defined, however, as an aspiration with a plan. We've got a plan. We've got a goal. We need hope to get there. But remember, hope is not a strategy. Yet no strategy at all can work without it. Without hope, every journey remains uncertain. But with it, every path becomes inspirational. So what is it that drives me? Inspirational people, some of them my patients, transformations in the world in which I live, which I will describe, reformations in the world which I will describe and give examples of. And on the right is Walking in the Clouds, a picture of one of the creations by Magritte. Inspirations in life. 5 years ago, I met a friend of my daughter, a young woman of Filipino extraction who had serious breast cancer. She had been treated at a hospital in New York City, but her treatment was not working. As if that were not enough, she was unable to even tolerate the treatment. She consulted me. I revised her treatment, but that made no difference at all. It was obvious that she was in need of surgery, and at age 30, she lost a breast. In December, she flew to the Philippines to visit her family. Upon landing, she had severe chest pain, and also that was accompanied by shortness of breath. She was found to have a collapsed lung. While hospitalized, she had enormous emotional turmoil, which activated post-traumatic distress. And she was not allowed to return to the States at 35,000 feet. This torment caused fear of flight and also fear of heights. Tonight, there's a man in our electronic audience who partners with Marlene and me in a foundation which helps people who need assistance with unexpected or uncovered expenses. The foundation assisted her in returning to the United States safely, but she did not leave her anxiety behind. Fear of heights, fear of elevators, and bridges remained. Now, this is a challenge for someone living in an 8th-story apartment in New York City. Things were not going to be easy for her. She needed psychiatric care and counseling. Her husband has been of great help, but along her journey, she had made friends with many other young people in similar circumstances. Last March, she asked if she could travel to upstate New York with a group of nature-loving cancer survivors. It was to be an outward-bound type of retreat in the Catskills. She would hike in the woods, cook on an open fire, sleep under the stars, and most importantly, learn new survival skills. Together, they would all meditate and heal. I signed a release and gave her my blessings. A few days later, she returned with joy and with these photos. This young woman is in the woods, but she is climbing a wall of water, a frozen waterfall. Most of us have never seen a frozen pillar of ice, and this young woman had grown up in a semi-tropical environment. She had been fearful of entering an elevator or even crossing a bridge, much less climbing a wall of frozen water. But she had overcome her trauma with an abundance of courage. She had become victorious over herself. Another of my patients, now 80, had breast cancer affecting both breasts. After successful treatment, she developed a mass over her left eye. A biopsy showed a rare and devastating Merkel tumor. It was removed, but quickly grew back. It was again removed and now given radiation, but it again grew back as a virulent tumor, sapping her strength and causing her to avoid public appearances. She entered hospice. I visited her on Christmas Eve, 2018, and enjoyed the redolent, sweet aroma in her home. I met her grandson as I was leaving. He told me that he was planning a trip to Mount Kilimanjaro. He understood Mount Kilimanjaro to be both a physical and metaphysical power, as it is a source of 7 rivers, including the headwaters of the Nile, as it fertilized the dawn of civilization in South, and the rivers flowing through the Rift Valley to nurture the very dawn of humanity in South Africa. These waters were the symbolic equivalents of the healing waters of Lourdes in France, the restorative powers of immersion in a mikveh, and the baptismic powers of faith. His plan was to deliver the love of his grandmother to the sky by holding up pictures of her while facing the first dawn of the new year atop this 19,300-foot mountain. He then returned to sanctuary and home in the States, in Edison, a week later. In March, I received a phone call from hospice. She was no longer eligible for hospice. She was gaining weight and felt well. Furthermore, the masses on her face, proven to be cancer, had disappeared. Some tumors may undergo spontaneous regression, but Merkel tumors are not known to do so. Hers was the first. Mary visited me before the pandemic and was healthy and preparing for her grandson's wedding. Hope is not a strategy, but no strategy can work without it. Without hope, every journey is uncertain, and with it, every path is inspirational. While the skeptic may be blind to this truth, the prepared mind welcomes this vision and this virtue. Healing is tonight's unifying theme. Transformations are most visible in art. That is what drives me. This is a painting created when its artist was 9 years old. This was Picasso's creation. You can see the physician holding the hand of a dying woman and a nun holding her child. We don't remember Picasso's time. He was far advanced for all of us. If we were to enter the modern art, we would walk down a corridor and see some of his paintings. Here's the boy with the horse. And on the left wall, one can see Mademoiselle d'Avignon, of 5 ladies of the night in Paris. The very first painting, or the second painting after Braque, of Cubism, what was described by some as the first motion pictures, if you will. How can somebody who created on the left at age 9 the most real, the most emotional, beloved painting, so creative and inspirational, create on the right 10 years later what now has become a new form of art in living color? And here an artist has used chalk to create the laying of track in a subway. And yet 10 years later, we identify that artist as the man who dripped paint in black, white, and brown on the floor in Long Island. How is this possible to be transformed from one on the left to that on the right in living color as well? And some of us had the opportunity to see the extraordinary exhibit, also in the Modern, now 7 years ago, an extraordinary exhibit of over 100 of his paintings. This view of life relies on change, and that's the most consistent thing about our world. It requires adaptability and acceptance, finding a niche in the world. And that is why the next reformations in science and philosophy is the theme that drives me and drives home the meaning of these changes. Who can we honor more than one of the greatest brains in history, the greatest minds in history, perhaps next to Newton and Einstein, but on an equal keel, other than Charles Darwin? The concept of evolution, descent with modification, survival of the fittest, as was adapted some years later. This was Charles Darwin's home, a home that Marlene and I had an opportunity to visit 2 years ago today. And this is what his home looks like today. He purchased it at the age 23 with family funds for $2,100 in Kent, England, about half a mile away from 2 remarkable bars. But evolution, modification with change, is what was created along with 10 children in this home. He wasn't sure about the branching modifications that led to this modification. Even he was uncertain. And you can see in his writings, in his book, he wrote, I think. He wasn't sure. This was his theory, subsequently confirmed. And today, by the way, is the first day ever in the United States that more than 50% of Americans actually accept evolution of the Darwinian sense. The idea is shown in branching evolution here, a trunk, branches, and then smaller branches into infinitely small stems in which patterns of growth and development are changed from the roots right up to the end of the branches. Sometimes we think of this as changing along hominids from early hominids on the left to modern humans on the right. It's a rather significant simplification because it is now known that we are the only living hominid now. But going back 40,000 years, there were 3, And going back 150,000 years, there were 7 different competing species for dominance on our planet, all at the same time. And it's still being debated, well, what is it that made our group, our Homo sapiens, the group that made it to current time? Will we be the last ones, based on all of the competition that's taking place right now, based on global warming? Will we the last, the final hominid species to exist? What I've learned over the last couple of years is that we need to bring into play anthropology. The very first American anthropologist came to the United States from Germany in 1895. He had been born in 1868. His name was Franz Boas. He had been trained in biochemistry in England, but that's not what he was interested in. He was interested in measuring heads, measuring heights, measuring different groups, something known as physical anthropology, variation in peoples. And he came to the United States because he felt this is where he could find the freedom to follow his heart. He learned about the variation in peoples by going to Baffin Island and studying the Inuits, what we would now call Eskimo groups. He subsequently took studies at Columbia University. At the time, there was no department of anthropology. He developed it. He was the very first anthropologist at Columbia University. And he recognized that there were 4 branches which exist to this day: physical anthropology, or measuring differences among groups, looking at cultures through the artifacts, their physical remains or archaeology; linguistic anthropology, that is language in the social context; and cultural anthropology, comparison to other cultures. He developed the idea, he inherited the idea of cultural evolution, but discarded it because it was originally thought that people who came from the Kalahari Desert, or people who came from southern Australia, such as seen on this slide, were less advanced than people who came from cultures like this. But he recognized that people from these cultures were culturally equivalent. They were not different. He had inherited the idea that there were cultures that grew from primitive groups on the left, and that they would advance over periods of time. Here's the Greek culture, for example, and modern culture, for example, in Western Europe or the United States, but quickly dispensed it, discarded it, recognizing there was no such thing as cultural evolution per se. One was not better than the other. They were culturally equivalent. Cultural relativism. They were worthy for the individual members of those societies as our own society is worthy for us. And the individuals who occupied those societies were intellectually identical and capable, as are we. On the right, I've put the integration, these arrows showing the fertilization of one culture by another, the cross-fertilization, if you will, just as butterflies and bees cross-culture plants. There is evolution, there is cultural interactivity and fertilization as well. He recognized the psychic unity of mankind, that all people have the same intellectual capacity, and differences were due only to the physical environment. Read the book about germs and guns by Jared Diamond. He spoke out strongly against racism and its causes. Nazi Germany banned his multiple publications. And in quote, "There is no fundamental difference in the ways of thinking of primitive and civilized man. If we were to select the most intelligent, the most imaginative, the most energetic and emotionally stable third of mankind, all races would be present. All people have the same intellectual capacity. In these 3 books, Primitive Art, Franz Boas, Race, Language, and Culture, the mind of primitive man. All right, I challenge you. Which among these three creations was made by Picasso? Which one by African artists? You tell me. And I'm not going to give you the answer. In the middle of fascist Europe, in 1936, Franz Boas was recognized as the Man of the Year. Nobody knows of this. Nobody knows of this. May 11th, 1936, in the presence of fascist Europe, our fascist world, there was hope developing. And it was because of this man, now at that point in his 40th year as the director of anthropology at Columbia University. So we contrast organic evolution versus cultural relativism. And these people are of equal quality, of equal creativity, and of equal importance. And I would wager to say, we understand more of that which is on the right than that which is on the left. Some of his intellectual descendants are people that we know of. Margaret Mead on the right, we all know about her work in Samoa. Ruth Benedict. Peoples of the earth are a single family and have a common origin. We have come from one set of ancestors, no matter what our color, no matter what our beliefs. Ashley Montague, man's most dangerous myth, the fallacy of race. In nature, there is indeed a struggle for life. There is also such a thing as the struggle for the life of others. The cultured man is an artist in humanity. Think about what we were through the last 4+ years. The scientist believes in proof without certainty. The bigot believes in certainty. The bigot insists that everything is certain without any proof at all. These are people who I honor. You may know or not know, but Darwin was an abolitionist in England, not well publicized. None of the other people on this slide were abolitionists. And Lincoln came to his ideas rather late in his career. But what you might now know is that Darwin and Einstein were born 4,000 miles apart on the same day, virtually at the same hour. February 12th, 1809. And what about altruism? That's what hope represents. Here is a word salad, looking at all of the different ways that we can look at altruism and hope. So what is it that this plague brings to us? Things are so foggy on the right. What is our world going to hold? We've been wearing a mask for the whole time. What is the world going to look at once this plague does pass? And hopefully, as you know, one of the entrance fees for tonight's talk was being vaccinated. I suspect that it was virtually 100%. There is, however, a positive influence of the pandemic. Reduced carbon emissions, clearer waterways, people in closer touch with friends and family, focused on essential workers, community spirit, access to culture without having to travel, and even free culture. You can get virtually any museum in the world for free. The Metropolitan that costs it's charging $25. The Louvre, $30, nothing. Better sleep, break in routine, restructuring life, changes in working habits, retirement, improved internet, scientific discoveries, peaking, yes. These are some of the impacts on our world because so many things came to a stop. Impact on the environment, loss, decrease in energy, decrease in waste, decrease in carbon emissions. Here in the world are marked decrease in carbon emissions that I've circled. Huge numbers 25, 40, 60% decreases in carbon emissions in our own backyard. On the top, in the deep violet, you can see that's New Jersey. Deep emissions in March 2015. On the bottom, we're turning green in New Jersey, of all places. We are becoming a garden again. Keep it that way. What else can we think about? Well, some of you may have read the wonderful book by David Oshinsky, a friend of mine, who wrote Polio, an American Story, that won a Pulitzer Prize in 2008. Some of you were possibly polio pioneers, volunteering your arms, or your parents volunteering your arms for a vaccine. Here's a scene on April 26, 1954 from David's book. Sometimes you needed to get family involved. And here is Jonas Salk injecting his son with the very first experimental polio shot. Sometimes you needed to engage people who were famous. Everybody knows who this was, of course. I don't know who this man is. And here is Jonas, also memorialized as Man of the Year in 1956 for his work on polio. Well, what about COVID vaccines? Sometimes we need to engage people who are famous as well. And here we've done it. But it goes far deeper than that. You know, because of Trump and the previous administration and the need for it, there was a tremendous support for creating the COVID vaccine. Large numbers of people were needed to prove safety and efficacy. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson were able to get 117,000 volunteers in 3 months. That's 39,000 people a month to volunteer for an unknown vaccine, unknown whether they would live or die, whether it would be effective, whether they'd have long-term complications from it. Remarkable, remarkable volunteerism. From 2015 to 2019, that's 5 years, there were only 35,000 volunteers for cancer trials in the United States that were able to get 5 drugs approved. 5 years of work for 5 drugs versus 3 months of work to save millions of lives in our world. I think it stimulates the idea of volunteerism and altruism in our world to follow through. And when given an opportunity, those of you who are ever asked to participate in a trial, do so. It is the greatest altruism for your sisters and brothers. Now, Elaine asked me to talk about family, and of course, my initial title was Remember Your Grandparents. Well, of course, this is me in the middle, but on the left wearing the dark dress is my father's mother, Mary, and on the right wearing the blue dress is my mother's mother, Ida, who had a very important role, both in my life, but particularly on the right, a very important role in my life. Here is me. Obviously, I had been in a little bit of a fight with my mother at the age of 17. And here is me at the age of 21, just about to go to medical school. I never graduated college, and holding my grandmother. And I went to Columbia Medical School. And Columbia is at 168th Street. My grandmother lived right next to the Bronx Zoo. And every Friday, I would take the D train downtown and then another train north to get to the Bronx. And I would visit my grandmother. She prepared a complete Shabbos meal for me and made sure that I had my only meal of the week in her house, which was unbelievably wonderful, and made sure I had a very full breakfast on Saturday morning before going back to school, because we had school for 4 hours on Saturday. That was 4 years of her keeping me alive with marvelous, marvelous food, including things that I might not eat today, which would be grievous, but every week for 4 years. So she was responsible for my mother being alive and giving birth to me, but later on, keeping me alive and allowing me to get through medical school. These people are Jenny and Jerry Reisman. Jenny was a German Jew who came to the United States in the 1930s. He wanted to become a physician, but could not get in to medical school, as brilliant as he was, because of the quotas on Jews. He went to Cornell Veterinary School, a school which is today still one of the best, if not the best, in veterinary medicine. He migrated south to Peekskill, New York, where my parents had elected to grow their family. And my older sister and I, and my younger brother and sister, grew to know and love these people. I worked particularly hard in medical school, largely because Jerry could not go to medical school, and in a vicarious way, I helped him to get through medical school. He bought me my microscope. He bought me all my books in my first year, both semesters, and kept in close touch with me throughout my 4 years in medical school. And I honor them greatly, and we even have a foundation in their name. And this is Marlene, who is my current inspiration, who gets me through all of the challenges in my current life, and who there is holding something, recognizing Wine and Roses, which is our favorite fundraising event for the last 20 plus years. On my wall are 3 copies of Maimonides' prayer. Inspire me with love for my art and for thy creatures. You in the audience are among them. Grant that my patients have confidence in me and follow my directions and counsel, meaning listen to what I say. Imbue my soul with gentleness and calmness when older colleagues wish to disdain me. And Almighty, thou hast chosen me in thy mercy to watch over the life and death of your creatures. Support me in this great task so that it may benefit mankind, for without thy help, not even the least thing will succeed. So there are definitions, BCAC, hope and aspiration with a plan, but the most important thing of all is healing. The art of inspiring well-being, regardless of the technique. And tonight you gave me the opportunity to use my technique in inspiring you, and I thank you for allowing me that opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Nissenblatt, for a wonderful and informative presentation. Do we have any questions from anybody? If you do, please put them into the chat. Okay, we do have a couple of comments about how wonderful the presentation was, so thank you again. We do have a certificate of appreciation that we will be sending you, Dr. Nissenblatt, as a thank you for being our first speaker in the Foundation of the Wilf Campus Lecture Series. Thank you so much. And thank you also to everyone for joining us. I just want to make sure that we have no more questions. Okay, so thank you all for joining us. And please look for information for future programs at the Wilf Campus, including our next Foundation Lecture Program. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night, everyone.
Michael, I just want to say thank you for being a wonderful human being and being there for so many people for so many years. You are so appreciated, and I hope you know that.
Thank you very much.